Welcome to Frontrunners Innovate. Today's guest is Concepción Gaxiola, the Executive Director of Advancing Girls Education in Africa, or Age Africa. This Malawi-based program recently hosted some very special guests. Former U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama, Belinda French Gates, and Amal Clooney all joined the girls to learn, engage, and inspire them, and also to demonstrate how powerful the philanthropy of women can be. My co-hosts for today are Dr. Erin Smith, founder of Workplace Readiness Solutions, as well as former U.S. Ambassador to Malawi, Jeanine Jackson, who also serves as Age Africa Board Vice Chair. I'm your host, Global Business Developer Mary Curie. So let's get busy connecting you to some frontrunners.
This is great. So we've already been talking, but I want to go ahead and just introduce my co-host. And I'm going to start with Erin Smith. Dr. Smith, with you, will share a little bit about what you're doing now and your interest in finding out a little bit more about Age Africa.
So thank you for having me on board, Mary. My name is Erin Smith. I am the founder and CEO of Upskill Talent, but also I'm an educator. So what I've learned is you'd be surprised at what you could bring in and engage students in today's life. And that's the way we go about it. So finding things through STEM and workforce development and taking it to the next level.
Great. So you actually are the founder of Workplace Solutions, right? Workforce Solutions. Okay. And also two-time author of books about innovation and education. So thank you. And let's see, Jeanine Jackson, who happens to be the former U.S. ambassador from us in the U.S. to Malawi, and also sits on the board for Age Africa. And Jeanine, welcome. Thank you very much. You are the vice chair, correct, of the board?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background. How in the world did you manage to get into Malawi? I assume that you were there first before you ever were appointed as ambassador, so you had an idea about it, but no? Okay. Share a little bit about the journey and what you're doing and how you came to Age Africa.
Well, I retired in 2015 after about 40 years of U.S. government service, and 14 of those years was in Africa. I had been working in other countries, including Afghanistan and Iraq, Hong Kong, Saudi Arabia, but 14 years were in Africa, and my husband and I spent a lot of time traveling around Africa. So when I retired, one of my goals was to support girls' education in Africa because I had observed firsthand how education can transform a girl's life. Girls become leaders in their family and community. They are gainfully employed. They marry later and have fewer and healthier children. And also, having come from a security background as well, I know that educating girls makes a nation more stable, secure, prosperous, and healthy when girls are educated. So I chose Age Africa because its mission focuses on the whole girl, her education, her life skills, her family and community, and most importantly, her agency. And that by that, I mean a girl's personal belief in her ability to affect change in her own life. So with Age Africa, the results are really remarkable. Our girls graduate at a much greater rate than average in Malawi. They become productive members of society because they have life skills and education.
Yes, this is great. I've been all over the website. I mean, all over the website for Age Africa. And I am just so impressed. And I've shared it with Dr. Smith, and I think he's been looking at it as well. This is an amazing organization, and it actually stands for Advancing Girls Education in Africa, correct? So I want to get that out there. So I'm going to ask you again, Jeanine, if you will do the honors and introduce us to your executive director, Concepción Gaxiola, that I would appreciate that.
Thanks. I'm really delighted to introduce Concepción Gaxiola, who is Age Africa's executive director. She leads the vision, mission, strategy, and fundraising efforts of this really remarkably successful organization. Under her leadership, Age Africa secured its largest single philanthropic donation and its largest grant award. And she has led in the last few years a significant increase in the number of girls and young women accessing education and life skills programming across Malawi's central and southern regions. As the daughter of immigrant parents whose mother couldn't access secondary school because of her community's antiquated views of gender roles, Concepcion is particularly passionate about girls' and women's rights to education, gender equality, and bodily autonomy. Concepcion is a Cordis Fellow alum and has held leadership positions in nonprofit organizations in Washington, D.C., focused on global women's and girls' gender policy and on human rights. In her previous life, Concepcion spent a decade in a private real estate firm in Southern California. Concepcion has inspired board members and many others with her enthusiasm and hard work on behalf of millions of Malawian girls. I think today she will tell you some stories that will pull at your heartstrings.
That's fantastic. I feel like I need to be giving you an award.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That's
Thank
terrific.
you. Thank you, Jeanine. That was very kind. Thank you.
This, it is our honor to have you here. So we're very pleased to get to know a little bit more about what you're all about, and then what you're doing in Malawi and where you're going to be taking that. So give us a little background on you. I know Jeanine shared a little bit about it, but give us the sort of the genesis of this program, this organization, and what drew you to it.
Yeah, absolutely. As Jeanine had mentioned, I do come from an immigrant background, and to where my mother wasn't able to go to school once she reached 6th grade because my grandfather at the time felt like women belonged in the kitchen, and that's what our roles were. So I actually had the privilege of seeing my mother graduate from high school here in the United States when I was a child, and I saw this woman just come to life as she was coming down with her cap and gown. And as a 7-year-old girl, I just thought that was the coolest thing I had ever seen my mother do. And when I moved to Washington, D.C., one of my roommates was actually the executive director for Age Africa. And I saw this organization just really come to life across the hall from me. And the stories that she shared were so similar to the stories that I had heard as a child about, going to school, the importance of an education, and again, seeing my mother do that. And it was, again, communities not having the values that they have for boys, that they have for girls, in educating them. Just having them go out in the fields and bringing income home, and just not really giving them any, as Jeanine would put, agency to be able to make decisions for themselves. And so these stories just mirrored what I heard. And at that moment, I realized the intersectionality just between poverty and mindset. And I was really excited to start volunteering for Age Africa. So I actually was a volunteer for 7 years before becoming an employee. And we used to have a triathlon. Now, I am not a triathlete. However, we engaged the Embassy of Malawi here in the United States to participate in some of our events. So in my first year as a volunteer, I was put on a team with the embassy, and I did the run. The ambassador did the bike ride, and we had another participant do the swim. So it was amazing just to see this group of people, and it's led by the board of directors, just get really excited about providing access to girls in Malawi, this place that's so far away, and seeing the enthusiasm from the embassy that there are people that care about what's happening with their girls. And so from there, the opportunity presented itself, and here I am as Age Africa's executive director. I'm going on 7 years, and it is such a privilege and an honor to be able to lead this fantastic organization.
Tremendous. Yes, it is tremendous. I just want to give a shout out to your board of directors too.
Oh, they're fantastic. We wouldn't be here without them.
It almost is a rare thing these days to
Mhm.
have that kind of involvement. So give us a little bit of a picture, paint us a picture of what's going on in Malawi when you are running the programs there. What kind of programs? You know, what I know is there's scholarships for the girls for education, but I think it's a whole lot more than that from what I've seen.
Yeah, so we learned early on that scholarships were just not going to be enough for girls to finish school. Most of the girls in the first few years of our program ended up dropping out because the reason for the highest dropout rates in Malawi are pregnancy and lack of school fees. And so we took a deep dive to try to understand why these girls were dropping out, like what was happening in their homes. And so slowly we started building a curriculum that was contextualized for girls in rural Malawi. So we brought on board Malawian women to help develop this curriculum. Because of their own experiences, they're able to put this knowledge and really put in the information that these girls will need, not just what's happening in school, but what's happening with themselves as well. So we worked with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Gender, to try to get a better understanding of where we can fill in some of the gaps that were existing. With that, we started seeing improvements in girls' academic performance. They were feeling better about themselves. They were confident. They knew that they could speak up. In most of the classrooms, in the schools where we work, the girls, they don't get selected to answer a question. And if they do and they're wrong, they are ridiculed. And so most of them don't want to return to school. So by giving them this opportunity for this after-school life skills program that we developed, is that it's a peer-led program that happens after school, and it's facilitated by the girls being overseen by a faculty advisor at the school, which is a teacher that we select. It's usually a female. We try to make sure that the girls are able to see role models within their communities that are just, aside from their mothers, they can see a teacher, or if we're lucky, there's a headmistress at the school which we work in. So we ask them to engage with our girls. Now, we do like to step back, though, and let the girls run the program. And what I mean by that is that we train a few of the girls as facilitators. And so they're given the information on how to lead discussions. If there are issues that present themselves that might be just a little bit out of their context, we invite, we have what we call a guest speaker series. So we'll invite maybe the local nurse at the clinic to come and give information about sexual reproductive health. We are limited into how much we can share. But if we have somebody within the medical community to come and speak with the girls, it also gives the girls an opportunity to see a woman in a position of power to be able to also have these conversations. We also have district officers that, as I mentioned, that oversee the program that are also women, but our district officers also live in the community. So the girls will sometimes see them at the local market. They'll see them even driving, and it's a really big deal for them because women don't typically, at least I don't see a lot of women typically drive in Malawi unless they're professionals. So it really gives them just a direction where they can see their life, move forward. And a lot of the women that work with us or that work for us, they also have been in similar, they share the similar backgrounds that these girls share. So it's not so far removed from them to not think that something is not possible. We know, though, that if we don't engage the actual community, so what we do when we identify these schools, we make sure that we go to the Ministry of Education to find out what schools are underperforming, because we want to make sure that we're bringing value, not just to the school, but to the actual community. We then engage the village leaders to let them know that our program is coming. So we call it Chats Open Days, so that everybody in the community is invited. They get to meet the girls that will be facilitating, but we're also speaking about our program. And what that does is it lets them know that we're there. And it's able to, and if the girls don't go to school, they come find us. Or if one of the girls is almost being forced into child marriage, you have mothers groups that will come and find us as well to help them either, intervene or go to the proper authorities. And we also include that information in our curriculum. So it really just encompasses anything that a girl could experience that might put forward a barrier that wouldn't let them finish school.
Wow, that's good. Aaron, I could see you were writing notes. I'm going to take you off. Yeah, take yourself off mute.
So,
you got a question.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking some notes here because what I really am seeing here is a generation changer. is you had talked about poverty and the importance of education and the power behind education. But what you are doing is you're planting seeds for future generations in that family to be successful.
Mhm.
And I'm humbled by that because I see I see so many similarities in some of the children that we deal with on a daily basis here in the United States. But I think it's 1,000 times harder over there because not only do they have cultural issues, but they have other issues that, everyday students see at schools.
Mhm.
One of the things that inspired me was the workplace experience project. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm really intrigued about that because I want to hear more, any success stories, things like
Absolutely.
that.
So that is an area in which we're continuing to develop. And I know that Jeanine and I have spoken very much about this, and this is aligning our alumni to corporations within Malawi to provide them with a work experience so that the
Yeah.
girls are picking up skills as well. We're working towards that. This is where partnerships are so important, and especially in Malawi, because we know that the girls will be the next workforce. So what we want to do is that we want to align our girls either with I'll give you examples of what some of our girls have done. So we have a young lady who is now at Must University, which is Malawi University of Science and Technology, who was doing data security. And so what we did is that we partnered her for an internship at I'm going to call it a financial firm, because what she was learning is data, or how to identify security breaches. So she performed so well in her internship that she's now a full-time employee. And that was because, yes, it's excellent. And that's because there was a woman that was leading that department that took notice of her. And so because of that, she was given even a further opportunity. And she's one of their best employees who comes back to Age Africa and helps us. We just finished an agency survey, and we just received the initial results. She was so helpful in entering this very complex data into a system, and that's what helped push that forward. So not only is she our alumni, we put her in this work experience program, and then on her own, she came back and wanted to know what she could do to help so that she could help other girls.
That's
So
awesome.
tapping into that knowledge has been really helpful for us in moving those girls forward. We also have a young lady who is a dentist. One of the first women dentists in Malawi. I mean, just as far as her certification, that we were able to help as well, and able to align her as well with somebody in the dentistry industry so that she could continue her career. So what does she do now? She goes back to primary schools and to teach children the importance of dental care. A woman, again, standing in front of students who she was one of them before. And so I think just building those relationships with corporations or with other nonprofit organizations will also give our girls an opportunity to apply, to learn a skill set that they're already studying and apply that skill set to their next job. What we are looking to do, though, is that we know that not all girls are going to university. So our next step is to identify opportunities for girls that are going to complete secondary school, but may not go into may not go into university. So really identifying where we can fit them in some spaces so that they can also acquire a skill set. What we do is we have this last year, we had an entrepreneurship all scholars retreat. So what we do is that we bring the girls from the districts in which we serve into a central location. And in this year, last year, excuse me, we had women entrepreneurs highlight what they're doing. So we had a fashion designer. Sometimes girls think, I don't want to tailor. Like, I see this man sitting over there and he's making this. Wow, here's a Malawian young woman that went to go study in South Africa and learned fashion design using that same skill set. So it gives them an opportunity as well to learn about, instead of calling it tailoring, you can design your own clothes and make your own clothes and sell it. So providing those girls with those opportunities under that project has been really helpful in helping them, again, acquire a skill set and be able to advance that. What they do with that as well, and I don't like to put a lot of pressure on women in general to like, hey, you work and you're going to pay it back. But we found that a lot of those girls end up supporting their younger siblings to continue school. So that way it lessens the burden on us and we can allocate that scholarship to somebody else.
Yeah.
I love that.
Happy to
love
talk
it.
to you
Do you have a
more about
follow-up
it, Eric.
question?
It is really fun. It's so amazing to see the change in these girls. You meet them when they're young, and then all of a sudden they're graduating, and the difference, I mean, it is the best part.
But they come back beaming. I mean, they are so excited, and all they needed was just that one shot to really propel them in that next new world of enthusiasm.
Yes.
I'm digging this.
Awesome.
You've inspired,
digging this.
you inspired Aaron. I wanted to talk a little bit about the radio stations and how they played a part. And Jeanine, I know this is something that you've talked about in the past, that you really want to promote that. So let me start with you first, and then we can go over to Concepcion. I did a little research online and realized that during the pandemic, that was something that the government used to get out health information and that sort of thing. I don't know if that's the genesis of how this all came about, that you guys figured out how to utilize public radio. But I do know this is something that's very close to your heart, Jeanine, and trying to push that forward. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, when I was US ambassador, I was always out in the field looking at US projects. And one of our projects was early grade reading under USAID. And part of that project was a daily radio broadcast from the local radio station into classrooms to present whatever curriculum it was they needed to get across, because the teachers may not have been as skilled or for whatever reason. But that I thought was absolutely phenomenal. So when Concepcion said, oh, we have to stop our chats programming because of the pandemic, because they're not allowing, the schools are closed or they're not allowing any after school activities, I immediately said, put it on the radio station. And radio is the main means through which Malawians receive their information and news. I know that's hard to believe, but it is true. And even some people don't have a radio. But radio is the most effective way to get things across, whether it be social messaging, music, news, etc. So what Concepcion and her team did is found 3 local radio stations and began using the life skills curriculum on those local radio stations. And the girls presented the program. So these girls were learning a new career already. They were learning journalism, radio broadcasting. And they had a record number of call-ins from the community because of these broadcasts, parents asking questions, community leaders asking questions, girls calling in. So it was so successful that we decided to try to go national. And with a lot of research, Concepcion's team did a lot of research to figure out which radio station that broadcasts throughout Malawi had the most listenership from teenagers. And they found the radio station. And now we have one of our staff members, our deputy director, produces weekly broadcasts to the nation. And we're reaching 5 million girls. And these girls are listening to discussions about girls' health, reproductive health. Climate change is a very important one. Resilience during disasters, leadership, child marriage, and other cultural issues that face girls every day. So with the radio, we have greatly increased the number of girls who receive the Chats curriculum. It's wonderful. Let's Chats Radio.
That's fantastic. You know, I think I read somewhere too that some of the families that are listening in or that are in outlying areas you didn't even know were listening were actually telling relatives outside of Malawi about it. They were, you know, regurgitating the information and just passing it along. Do you have, you're grinning, Concepcion, do you have a success story or two to share relating to this?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're
So,
gonna run out of time in about 8 minutes. I just want to give you that
all
heads
right,
up.
I'll get to it. We'll do cliff
Okay.
notes. I'll teach myself right now.
Yeah, okay.
So Cyclone Freddy was last year, and it was very devastating for a lot of the communities. Schools were closed. They were being used as shelters. Again, we knew from the pandemic that this is where girls are most vulnerable. You see the rate of increase in pregnancies skyrockets during these time periods. So what we did is that we went into the schools with the social workers, the district social workers, so that we could collect stories to see what girls are facing and how we can share that knowledge. The 3 local radio stations, they provide a way for us to contextualize our programming for what the needs of the communities are. So it's not just a national program, but we can actually isolate certain cases into some programming at the local level. So what ended up happening just organically, and it ended up on the BBC, which we're so excited about, is that the girls in those schools, they formed the radio listening club that was actually being led by one of our district officers who didn't really think it was a big deal, but she started organizing them in her home. And these girls every Saturday were listening to the radio station or whatever day they would select to choose. So almost like a chat girls club. And they would listen to the radio and then they would talk about it after. And so we ended up discovering this last year that there's these little village radio programming that's happening, or excuse me, clubs that's happening. And what we found is that these girls, 5 girls have returned to school. They had dropped out because of pregnancy, but they were so inspired by what they had heard, and just being able to just talk about it really helped them in, in being able to make decisions for themselves. And so it's been quite exciting. A lot of them see themselves as role models as well. And, we want to be able to kind of tap into that just a little bit more so that we can get a better understanding of how we can use that in other communities where it's not such a heavy lift. The curriculum is there, but we can also help them navigate through some very sensitive topics. We do have our girls that do play, as Jeanine said, they're also radio broadcasters. So maybe once a month, we'll ask a few of them to share their stories. And they do, and that's when we receive the highest listenership. Yes, because people want to know what girls are talking about. The radio station is called, or the radio program is called Tichese Atsekana, which is Let's Chats Radio.
That's that you've tripped across something that's just a little gold mine right there for programming. I think it's a great model for other people to follow. So I'm really proud and very pleased for you that you have such a great story. And 5 girls went back to school. I mean, that's big to me.
It
That's
is.
big. That's huge. So
Could I just mention that, could I just mention that they also, these girls organized themselves after Cyclone Freddy to do climate change related or cyclone related projects in their own community. I mean, they did it themselves. It wasn't an Age Africa program. So self-motivation and self-help, which is not necessarily normal in Africa or in Malawi, was really phenomenal.
Wow, that's an applause right there for sure. Fantastic. You got a lot of goodies off of doing that. That's terrific.
No, it's great.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about direction real quick at the end here. Where do you think you're headed the rest of this year? What's going on?
The rest of, we're going deeper. We're just going to dig in deeper and continuing to find out what's working for us. We just received results from an agency survey, and the early results are showing that our curriculum is making a difference in the lives of girls. So we collected data for about 1,000 girls. I think 600 were actually analyzed, and we have the results that we'll be presenting at our upcoming board meeting, but also with partners outside of Malawi. I don't know if our program can extend to others, but we'd love to share best practices and just to see what's working for us. So we're really excited to learn about that, and that'll inform our programming. So as we continue building on, we're adding about 200 scholarships and September in the secondary schools and university. So we're also looking at that, and yeah, we're really excited. We're a small, lean, mean machine, as we like to say, but we're looking to, of course, grow that and be able to, provide quality programming to more girls.
So growth to you would certainly mean donors and contributors. Is there a particular price tag on one scholarship that you can share with us? How much?
Sure. So we average it out to what's a scholarship for a boarding school. So there's two types of schools in Malawi. It's the boarding schools, that's equalizers, I like to tell people, because you have to test to actually enter that school. So it doesn't matter your financial background. And then there's the everyday school, commuter schools that are, most girls walk a distance of about 2 hours just to get to school and come back. And those are the girls that want to keep motivated to keep going because they're dedicated. So for boarding schools, it's about we average it out to about $1,000 a year to support a group. That includes uniforms, that includes school supplies, that includes accommodations and transportation for those girls that walk those long distances.
Okay, very good. It's kind of what I had in my mind that I thought it would probably be. And lastly, any other types of partners that you might be looking for right now?
Always looking for corporate partners to provide girls opportunity, to just kind of shift them over to see what skill sets they can learn. But we also like to learn about best practices and seeing what others are doing. Maybe that'll help, build our program, or we can help them as well. But I really do think that having that corporate support in Malawi, being able to step up and work with us, and we want to make sure that this workforce is ready for them when they get there. So what can we do to help them as they enter into that next phase of their life? Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that ends this episode, and what a great one it has been. I'm going to ask you to stay with us. I think Erin and I would like to talk to you for just another second as we say goodbye to everybody else. If you're watching this on YouTube or on our website or wherever you may get your podcast, just a reminder again, we're at frontrunnersinnovate.com, where you can watch lots more interviews with people just like this. So bye everybody else. See you soon.
Bye. Thank you.